Hey, what's good, everybody? My name is Helen Herimbi, and as you know, the coronavirus has been disrupting and, in some cases, destroying lives the world over. So, to try and bring some light to what seems like some dark times, we're going to be bringing you The Watch. This show is called The Watch for a reason. Of course, we'd like for you guys to just watch us, but more importantly, we'd like for us to all look out for each other. So while South Africa and other countries around the world are going through or are continuing state-imposed lockdowns, looking out for each other may entail giving you the correct info or a lot of music to get you through or some first-person accounts of reality. I think we're even going to do a little bit of comedy just to find some light in the lockdown and a whole lot more. Basically, this is about lifting each other's spirits in any way that we can. All right, so today I'm going to be talking to some people who have been indirectly or directly affected by this virus to find out how they took on another meaning of the word positive. So I've got Dr. Lerato Masemola, Notando Mikoko, and Georgie Sennett. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? Hey, Helen.
All right, so I want to start with you, Georgie, because you are thousands now in South Africa who have tested positive for the coronavirus.
Yes.
So you were overseas when this whole thing happened?
Yeah, so I study overseas in the UK. And as soon as it all started unwinding, my parents thought to just bring me back as soon as possible. The Sunday before I came back, I started coughing a bit, but just thought that I was coming down with the flu, didn't think it was too bad. I flew back on the Monday night and arrived home on the Tuesday morning and got my results a week later and tested positive. Yeah, my symptoms weren't too bad. I just had a headache and just a headache. I had a headache, was quite achy and it was I thought I had quite bad sinuses. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. And was feeling quite weak, but that was most of my symptoms. I didn't have a fever. I didn't cough intensely, but that was mostly my experience of it.
Yeah. And you said you felt like there was a symptom that other people aren't discussing.
So there was a symptom which is a weird one that I didn't really, so what I was explaining about the sinus thing is that, when you go swimming and you get water up your nose, I'd wake up in the morning and feel like that. I thought maybe it was my sinuses, maybe it was something else. That's why basically I got my results a week later. So I thought maybe I didn't have it during that week. But all my friends at university in the UK were showing that same symptom of that almost like a fuzzy feeling in your nose. And I'd say maybe 10 to 15 of them had it. So when I tested positive, I thought maybe that's a symptom that people aren't discussing. And it probably has to do with it just because so many of my friends are showing that symptom. And now that I know that I was tested positive, maybe it is something that people just aren't discussing.
Yeah. Dr. Lerato, is this something that you're hearing from people?
From the patients, yeah. So nasal congestion that's like a bit unusual or feels more severe is one of the commonest symptoms actually, and it can be one of the very first presenting or come a bit later after the fever and the chills and everything. So it's not uncommon. Maybe people don't really mention it because everybody's looking for shortness of breath and dying. But it's actually one of the commonest symptoms. You can't actually taste because you can't smell. So lots of smell with lots of taste with a severely congested nose, like what she was describing, like it's sore inside the nose, like you got water up your nose. Locked. Yeah, it's a very common symptom. It's just, I think maybe people take it lightly, like she said, because everybody always thinks corona, can't breathe, lung fibrosis, I'm gonna die. They disregard the other minor symptoms, which is what a lot of people actually get.
Yeah. So Georgie, you and your family decided that they weren't gonna banish you. And so
initially, so I arrived back and everyone said that for the first 2 weeks you should self-quarantine, and we're a very close family. So my mom said, okay, you two, so me and my brother came back from university and they said, you two stay in your room and we'll figure it out how to go. And then I think that lasted about 15 minutes, and by that stage we're all having dinner together and all like spending time together. So I think we just made the decision that like actually we can deal with it together, and if one of us ends up testing positive, we'll all deal with it moving forward. We decided as we arrived back that the whole family would self-isolate, and that my siblings wouldn't go to school and my dad wouldn't go to work, and that we'd all just stay at home. That was on the Tuesday, and I think the country went on to lockdown the following Thursday. So we've been under lockdown for 2.5 weeks now. But yeah, so I tested positive, and my brother actually tested negative, coming from the same university. But since then, my dad and my sister have been showing the same symptoms as I have. My mother's been a bit weak, but nothing too bad. And then my 2 brothers have been completely fine.
Oh, that's interesting. So then what are the things you're supposed to be doing to make sure that you are getting back to health? And maybe Dr. Verata, you can also chime in.
What we've just been doing is we've been just getting a lot of rest. We've been eating well. We've been trying to, we're quite an active family, so we've been trying to not normally we've got a treadmill, so we try walk a bit, try get a bit of exercise done. But as I was saying to you earlier, is that's when I first started noticing that my like respiratory health wasn't normal. Is that I'm normally quite a good runner, and then when I went for a run the other day, I could hardly walk even a kilometer without feeling weak. So we're just trying to get back to normal, get back to health. My brother and I still have exams, so we've just been studying. And yeah, it's been we just haven't left the house. We've got deliveries. It's just been, I mean, none of us have been too badly affected, so getting back to health hasn't been too big of an issue, but it's just not infecting anyone else. So we haven't had any contact with anyone else, haven't left the house. Any deliveries are kind of like left at the gate and made sure that we don't have any contact with anyone else. Just because it's our responsibility not to infect anyone further.
Yeah. Dr. Lerato, what are you supposed to be doing? Like if now you're in lockdown and you're like, I'm having all of these symptoms that Georgie was talking about, what are you supposed to do right now?
Well, basically, with lockdown or not, if you have symptoms, we don't admit everybody. About 15, maybe even 20% on the higher end of people will need some kind of medical intervention, but around 15% or so. So a lot of people will do well, like Georgie, to self-quarantine at home. So you're self-isolating if you're suspecting that you have been exposed, which is what her family did. So the minute they said, we're not going to banish you to your room, we're going to be with you, then they must protect the public and not go out. So they must also isolate in that house together. But anybody who thinks they are too ill to stay home and get better, our government has a number that you should call, because then the health department will send people out to you to check on you, to get a test done. And if you can afford the private medical care, I generally ask my staff to screen calls. So somebody's coming in and they feel they're sick, we do a mini screen so that I can manage them and the patient. I don't want my staff to get exposed, and it's unfair for the patient to also expose other patients. So then in that regard, then we would say, okay, you can go directly to the lab. We'll call the lab, send you the form to screen, and then you go home immediately. So also to protect the public, you should wear a mask if you're going to go outside and you think you're sick, so that you don't breathe and cough particles into the air, right? So it should be a short trip to the lab. But then in terms of staying home and getting better, don't do too much in terms of wanting to exercise. So eat well, hydrate. It's very important to keep the body healthy so that it can fight, because most viruses are self-limiting, meaning they will infect you and then go out by themselves. After the body has dealt with them. Your body has an immune system. Once something attacks it, it recognizes it and starts making what we call antibodies towards it. And then it, in turn, then fight infection. So then you need a strong body. You can't be wanting to do push-ups and treadmill running and wanting to have a fit, nice-looking body while you're sick. It's okay to just rest a bit. And also, like Georgie said, you can't actually breathe well because it affects the airway, right? So eat, sleep, drink water, wash your hands so you don't infect other people. And most people will get over this without any complications. There might be a lot of discomfort when you're feeling weak or your body is sore or you can't eat because you can't smell. but it's just to be aware that you force yourself, or if you're fortunate enough to be like Georgie and you've got a family looking after you, they feed you 3 meals a day and things like that. But there are families who choose to say, okay, fine, you can stay in your room. We will bring stuff to you. Have some kind of minimal contact, which is not a bad thing, because it also depends on the risk profile of the people looking after you. The older people are at risk. So it's not really advisable for somebody like over 65 to be like, you're my child, I'm going to look after you. It's best for them to stay away from you in a safe manner, 2 to 3 meters away. So you can come to the room door and open the door and say, hi, how you doing? Give them the food and the water. They can leave their room and go to the bathroom, come back into their room without contact with the other people. So it can be safe to be in the house with somebody who's infected, as long as you minimize contact unnecessarily, if your risk profile says that you should not get it because you might be one of the severely ill people.
I see. Notando, I haven't forgotten about you. I especially wanted you to be involved because, you're the director of Sosela, right? Which is a legal and strategy firm working in the creative industries. And your job means that you travel quite a bit. And you were overseas when the COVID hit.
Yeah. In fact, before, I left on the 9th of March, and already by then, there's a lot of stories about it going around. And in fact, I was going for a couple of meetings in London, and a conference, which was going to be held at the London Book Fair. And 2 days or 3 days before I was supposed to leave, they cancelled the book fair, and a number of colleagues I was supposed to be meeting with, coming from the US, cancelled their trip. So that was the first major alarm bell. And I remember sitting with my dad, and he was like, maybe you shouldn't go,
Yeah.
But being self-employed, you can't just kind of be like, okay, I'm not going to go on that trip. I was like, okay, I need to be a soldier about this. If I'm going to go, I need to look after myself a lot. And I think that really served me well, because even from the time I left, the sanitizer, the mask from OR Tambo, I was quite disciplined with that. And I was actually surprised when I got, even just, getting to our airport, going via Dubai, and people were just like so casual, like people weren't wearing masks. And I was really surprised. But by the time I came back, which was a week later, which was on the 16th of March, the whole mood had changed. Airport, everything had changed. And at that time, I think President Ramaphosa had just said that they would be shutting down the borders in a few days. But I think I was really disciplined during my trip. But when I got home, I remember my mom saying, we'll come and fetch you. My kids were with my family, and my mom was like, no, we'll come and fetch you. I was like, the fact that you are offering to come and pick me up tells me that you're not taking this thing seriously enough. Or you of all people. And before I left, my dad had a really, really bad cold, flu. And it actually got onto antibiotics. So I already knew that I couldn't be around my parents. So I got from the airport, I got a younger friend to pick me up, drop me at my apartment, and I was here for 14 days, 12 days alone. And then my kids joined me on the 12th day. I then moved into my bedroom, and then they had the apartment. But on the day that they arrived, because I was like, I was so excited to see them around, and I'd cover up and I'd, be around the house. And my daughter was actually dragging me. She's like, you've been all over this apartment. You need to go into your bedroom. So I clocked my 14 days 2 days ago. No symptoms, fortunately. But I was very, very conscious of my health, myself, taking immune boosters even before I left, and just being very OCD with the sanitizer and everything. So it worked out well. No symptoms. I didn't test, but now it's lockdown.
I think what's interesting about both Georgie and Notando is Georgie's family decided that they wanted to be with her, and there was support in that way. And you decided that your kids shouldn't be with you, and you were supporting in that way. But how did it affect your relationship with your kids? I remember you were putting up these posts about you sent them airtime and you want to see their faces, so they must video call you.
I mean, I think my daughter's, she's better. My son, I mean, like he was complete. He's like, "Are you fine, mom? Okay, cool." You know. And so I'd send him data like, "This is for keeping in touch with me." I mean, it was tough. I think for me especially, because I don't want the kids to be scared. I mean, they're already consuming all this, scary news about the coronavirus and people are dying. And so I really downplayed it a lot. Like I was like, no, man, I'm fine. And I was fine. But, even if I do get it, I'm sure I'll be able to overcome. So I did a lot to sort of protect them from being anxious and, but I mean, they were great. My parents would bring the kids. They would come and visit. They would like stay at the door, whilst when I'm inside and like 3-4 meters and just have a conversation. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, but I think I'm comfortable with the approach that we took. I really wanted to keep my parents safe because even though they're healthy, they just are in that high risk category, particularly my dad and his, yeah. And I think that's really at the end of the day, that's all you can do. Sometimes it's just realizing that it's not about, for me, it's not about me. I would hope that if I got it, I'd be able to overcome, but it was just the people around me. I mean, the lady who helps at home, I already told her before I come, I don't want to see you around. I don't want you near the apartment because those are people who are also very vulnerable in the sense that I can go to Sunning Hill Mediclinic, whatever, and do it. She's in a much more vulnerable position, in terms of access to healthcare, which I would help her in any case, but it's a less solid infrastructure that she has. So I was just very cognizant of that, just the people around me.
Yeah. I like that you said that because the purpose of this show is to basically look out for each other, And I think before I let all of you go, maybe Georgie, can you give us one tip as a way to look out for people who have been diagnosed and have tested positive? What is one thing that they can do to keep their spirits up?
I think it is just keeping hope. I think it's so easy to look at the negative statistics, and I think humans but naturally just look at the worst they can. And even I think this whole thing, there's a lot of hysteria around it. And I think it's just trying to maintain hope and trying to say, well, actually, there is hope in it and we can get through it. And I think as a nation, we've dealt with this so well. I think like in terms of our present, how we like locked down when we did, I think in terms of our statistics, we were like 2 weeks behind the UK, and now it's pushed back to like 3 weeks or something. And I think we can get through this and we can be strong through this. I think it is just keeping hope and keeping positive about it, which is hard at times, especially when like I remember for me, I watched a video on how it actually affects your lungs and affects your thing, and it really freaked me out. But I thought, you know what, like my body's strong enough at this stage to keep like to be fighting it, and until things get worse, I shouldn't get scared about it. And I think that's my tip. It's just keeping hope.
Nothando, what is one thing, maybe like a practical thing that you feel like if you do nothing else today, do this?
I think, we always sort of anticipate change and revolutions and all of that, but we never really know how they're going to come. I think that what's happening now is definitely the beginning of some kind of new world order. World, we are going to be changed after this. And practically for me, if you're in a space or a vocation, actually, in fact, any space or occupation, I've been keeping myself busy to say, okay, how does this change, this new order affect me in my work, and how I can modify what I do and how I do it, in order to survive and not in a negative, panicky way, but very practically, what opportunities does this represent? I mean, everyone, is complaining and not complaining, but it's dire. Like how are people's jobs going to be affected? How are people going to work? But there's some industries, you look at Netflix, for example. they are hardly coping with the demand of, in their business. So for me, in the work that I do, it's like, how do I assist organizations in the entertainment industry to embrace and flourish in this new space? Because there have been very significant losses, with live and live interaction between, artists and their audiences. So what are the opportunities? So for me, in a practical way, to keep yourself busy and to keep yourself kind of going and future focused and not sort of dire and anxious, is what opportunities are presented by this new world order?
Yeah.
Assuming we all make it to the other side.
We will. We're going to make it. Dr. Lerato.
We can't hear you, though.
Can you hear us, Dr. Lerato? I want to say thank you to all of you guys for actually watching today. I want to say thank you to our guests, Georgie Senate, Notando Migogo, and Dr. Lerato Masemola, for sharing their stories with us today. Thank you for looking out for us, and I hope that this information will help you look out for your loved ones. My name is Helen Herimbi, and I'll see you tomorrow.